I, 20 Fahrenheit, live in student housing where I share a room, and in the other room are two other girls who we'll call Sasha, 22 female, and Summer, 21 female. I share a room with one we'll call B, a 19-year-old female. At first B wasn't an issue and we all got along just fine. We were all friends and would go on fun adventures together, but the issues arose when she brought her boyfriend to live with us. At first she said he was visiting for the weekend, but somehow he never left. He'd leave for work and come right back, and she expected us to sneak him into student housing after hours for her because Sasha and I had cars we could hide him in and drive him past security. This made us extremely uncomfortable, because if we got caught we could get academic probation and whatnot, but the kicker was that she seemed to be aware of all the housing rules and regulations around what she was doing. Later on, she started a cat sitting for her boyfriend as well, or so that's what we thought. The cat would go to the boyfriend's house from time to time, but for the most part she kept it at the dorm, but as we could all guess, even more problems started to come out of it. She claimed it was an ESA registered through student housing, so we couldn't get in trouble for her bringing her boyfriend's cat over. Since none of us really knew the process for that, we assumed it was fine and minded our business until one day the raw caught wind of it. But because Sasha and I are friends with him, he let it slide because we were all under the impression it would only be there temporarily. Once again, it never left, and she never cleaned up after it, making the apartment reek of cat shot. It destroyed the carpet, one of my uniforms, and when anyone scolded it, she lost her shot because she read online that you're not supposed to say no to your cat if you want it to love you or some dumb BS like that. Anyway, naturally we were all tired of her shot, so Summer asked the Raw for advice, where we found out there was no way this cat was documented through housing, meaning she broke the lease and we could get in trouble for the damages and it, let alone being there. He said the cat had to be a minimum of 2 years old, fixed, and up to date with vaccines to be able to stay, which it had none of. We confront her kindly, and she turns it into a soap opera scene with screaming and crying, which has been a pattern throughout all of this. She left messes everywhere, and when we asked her to tidy up after herself and respect others' common room items, she took personal offense to it, etc. Our last straw was when she brought an ant infestation into the dorm because she left basically all of her pantry items open. When we called her to let her know we were tossing it all, she got mad and said she'd be over in a few, which to her I guess a few means 3 hours when she was literally 20 minutes away at her parents' house. We had a few friends come up and keep us company while we cleaned, and when she got there it was immediate crying and yelling about how we only blamed her because she's the youngest. Quite frankly, we were all sick of her and sick of the fact that she was downright unapproachable, so we set up a mediation with our RA, which got changed to the community director due to the bias we had by being friends with the RA. Well, that didn't do justice because she went and had her own meeting where she told a whole sob story and said that we tried to poison her with a raid and that the RA gave her permission to have the cat, which he didn't, in an attempt to get him in trouble. So, collectively we all decided on petty revenge after she moved back with her parents. We had my mom send a text on Facebook as a concerned parent to both of her strict parents of everything she did wrong and asked them to consider having a talk with her so she could see how dangerous it is to have a strange man living with a bunch of girls far from home with nowhere else to go for safety in the event that he tried to do something. Since doing this, she has not been active on any social media, which she normally eats, sleeps, and breathes on, and has left any and every group chat we had as roommates or with any mutual friends. I know what I did was petty and childish, but the three of us needed closure after the short show we lived through this semester, and I hope her parents rip her a freaking new one for what she pulled. Not an idiot. Normally I would feel bad for someone going back to control freak parents, but your ex-roommate nukes all bridges with you, your other roommates, the RA, community director, and the school with her abusing and using the housing system for her cat and homeless boyfriend. Not an idiot. That was a very practical and reasonable response to her childishness. She needs to learn there are consequences to her actions, and if she crosses people's boundaries, they have free permission to cross right back. She's lucky she got off so easy, really. Not an idiot. You lasted longer than I would. I'd have thrown the cat out of the house after the first week. Rules are rules. They are there for a reason. I've met people like her, always the victim, who doesn't see where she needs to follow the rules. Now for the next story. So, right before I quit my job because I was so tired of the people, I had a few rude customers. It was actually the reason I quit, and if I knew it was gonna make me quit, I would have responded very differently. Anyways, where I worked, we have maybe 20 employees total, and the closing shift was given about 4 employees. I was the main cashier, taking on the line full force. There were 3 other employees, a manager and 2 stalkers. One of the stalkers was my backup. We were getting really close to the end of the night. We closed in about an hour from the time this happened. My backup was extremely busy. During the day, very little was done, so he was trying to get out anything and everything to make sure the shelves were properly stocked. I was in the flow and finally looked up to see my line was about 15 people long. I'm supposed to call for backup after 3 people, so I call and tell some people to head over to another register. This is when time slows down for me. My backup took about 5 minutes to get to the register. It felt like 15. Probably because my customer had just handed me a handful of change, around $7 worth. I started counting it. She helped a bit, and I was totally ignoring everyone except for this lady when I heard, "Is someone coming over or what?" It was an older lady. I responded with, "Yes, someone is coming." He's busy, please give him a moment. I called for backup again and continued counting. A few seconds later, a man goes, well, she's waiting for you to answer her. I responded with, well, sir, I already responded to her. Someone's coming. I finished counting the change, and my backup and I cleared the line pretty fast. But when it got to the man who told me the lady was waiting, he decided to be not so kind. I began ringing him out, and the first thing he said to me was, so, what's wrong with you people? Immediately, I'm annoyed. Most customers don't talk to me as I'm really fast and finish their order before we can really talk. So, I say, what do you mean, sir? To which he replies, well, clearly you all suck at your jobs, and you don't have nearly enough employees. What's wrong with this place? When are you going to get your act together? I replied with, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know what you're trying to say. It's late, and we're extremely busy. My backup was clearly very busy and couldn't get up here immediately. Here's your receipt, have a wonderful evening. And I smiled at him. If I knew it was my last day, I would have told him that if he felt that way, he could take his sorry ass out of the store and never shop with us again. Not an idiot. I was working one day, and the other cashier had gone to lunch. It was the weekend, so no managers were working. I got a bit of a line but was going as fast as I could. One man asked if I could open another register. I said well I could, but I can still only run one at a time. Surprisingly, he shut up. Not an idiot. Whenever I'm in line and hear people complain about things like this, I make a point to loudly point out that it's not the worker's fault that the line is long or that they're understaffed. There's always people that just want to be an ass. Now for the next story. So, a while back, I worked for a country club and occasionally we would have a tournament game where people would come play a few holes at night. We also had other activities as well. Not only was it fun, but due to the abnormal hours, the tips were usually above average, so I tried to work these events when they came up. Another plus side was if you worked this party, you automatically got to come in later, and were not scheduled for the morning shift. This time when the tournament party rolls around, we have some renovations going on. Due to this party being outside, we have to carry the things we need outside. However, no one thought of this and the double bay doors we normally use were no longer available. They put pallets of concrete and old tile in front of them. Was not a fire escape door, so no biggie I guess. Due to this, now we had to carry whatever we needed down the hall, use the elevator and then go down a makeshift ramp that led to the basement so we could go out the golf cart bay doors. This not only disrupted the kitchen staff but also disrupted the cart jockeys. If we were almost at the end of the tunnel leading outside, a cart jockey was trying to bring in a cart. He had to wait and vice versa for us, and the same thing went when we used the kitchen elevator and walkway. We started getting ready for the party around 6. We would take the needed items over to the shelter and store them there until it was closer to start time. It took a lot of time due to the complexity of carrying, rolling huge tables around the entire country club, especially the elevator. Some of our tables were so big we had to shove the light fixtures up a little bit to get them to fit. Around 9 we were getting the last of the supplies when my co-worker Steve had the bright idea. Hey, it's been dark for about 45 minutes. Let's go out the front door, and since it is on the same level as our storage we have no elevator or small hallways to worry about. Well, we take one load out, load it in the cart, take the second load out, load it in the cart, no problem. Right as we were loading the third and final load, our banquet planning captain came rushing over. No, that door is for members only. You cannot use it to load that stuff. Sorry, we figured that since no one had been golfing in the past hour it was fine. Well, it is not okay, and if I see anyone use this door for anything else you will face disciplinary actions. You cannot use this door unless you are a member. Well shit. We both proceeded to take the rest of the load out the more difficult way and then carry it all the way around back to where our cart was waiting with the other 2 loads. We drive off to the event and start getting set up as it will begin soon. What we discovered later on is that no one told the last cart jockey that none of us had a key to 1 unlock the door or 2 to lock it when we leave. So naturally we tried all the usual doors we could enter, even the one from the break room for smokers to use. Nada. Steven says hold on, I'll be back, runs to the front, and lo and behold, one of the doors to the front was unlocked. Too bad it is for members only and none of us are members. The 5 of us decide it's worth the extra time to be petty, so Steven calls the banquet coordinator, our boss, and lets her know. After much discussion, she realizes we can't leave it at the shelter as it will most likely ruin our chairs and some of the wooden tables as well as the decorations we have, and she has to come in. By the time that we are finished, it is almost 4:30. It was a lot faster with no kitchen personnel or cart jockeys, but still took a while, especially with the added time it took her to get there. Well, guess who showed up at 4:30? Our general manager. He used the front door that we found was unlocked. He saw our boss and asked why she was here so early, to which she replied we were locked out so she had to come let us in. Then he asked her why we didn't just use the front doors since they were wide enough and unlockable from the inside, unlike the cart doors. This brought a hellstorm of rage upon the 5 of us. She came speed walking in her heels looking like she wanted to turn us to stone like Medusa. 5 of y'all and none of y'all tried the freaking front door. Really? Why the hell did no one check the bloody front doors before calling me? At this point, I was like a shot out of nowhere. Here comes Steven with you said we couldn't use that door or we would face disciplinary actions. If looks could kill, Steven would be dead. She glared at him, then her eyes glazed over. She turned around and went to go get ready for her shift. There was never another word about it, but we all laughed about it for a few weeks. By the next time we had an event outside, the construction, restorations were complete, so we just used our normal doors to go out. Not an idiot. I'm reminded of my professor who showed the class a photo she'd taken of a sign at a resort that read members and non-members only. Given she taught discrete mathematics, she got a chuckle out of that. If that sign was a mistake, it was not an easily correctable one, as they'd carved it into marble. Not an idiot. Funny story, but just so the building rules don't seem insane. Even the most careful people moving things in and out bang up an entrance, so it is common for there to be a rule against using the public entrances for moving even when no one is around.